buckle up for one of my most challenging dupes to date. And you are not going to believe how much money we saved creating our own. So I think we should just jump right in and take a closer look. This Grandin Road Harvest Hayden Topiary is a showstopper. First of all, I love the colors. I am going for more traditional fall colors this year with those greens and the oranges, and this topiary had exactly what I was looking for. I love the size of it, and my favorite part is that bottom portion of the topiary where it has those gorgeous leaves and seeds. It's just so cute. What's not cute is the price. Let's take a closer look at that. Right now it's on sale, you guys, so we are getting a bit of a discount, but it's still $311.20, which is far too much for me to pay. So we are going to create our own. We are going to start off with the bottom section of this topiary. I needed a large ball of some sort. I found a solution at Hobby Lobby in the aisle with all the styrofoam balls. I knew I did not want styrofoam because it's really bumpy and we needed that smooth surface, but they had some foam half circles. These are going to be perfect for our project because they give us that smooth surface. They're also the size we needed. I purchased 4 of them and they were $7.99 a piece. Another very challenging part about this topiary is trying to get an exact color match. I'm sure I raised a few eyebrows at Hobby Lobby. I had my phone out with the topiary and I was holding it up next to all the colors trying to figure out the perfect match. Well, it worked, and I found this gorgeous fresh cut grass tone of green that is an identical match. So what I'm gonna do is paint my foam half circles in this craft paint. I got a large foam brush and I painted the craft paint onto my half circles. Painting these surfaces with craft paint is going to be a lot more time consuming than, let's say, spray paint, but we can't use spray paint because I've done that in the past and it like melts the foam, and we do not want that to happen. So we are just sticking with the craft paint. I made sure that the surface was completely coated in this craft paint. I ended up painting on 2 coats on these half circles. I wanted to make sure that it was one solid color. Once I had the craft paint painted on, I let it dry for about an hour. Next, I got some hot glue and I ran a line of hot glue around the rim of one of the circles, took my second half circle and pressed the 2 together to form one large ball. Once I was finished with this process on my first ball, I repeated it on my second. I added the hot glue to the rim and just pressed those 2 together. I failed to mention that I am actually going to be creating 2 of these topiaries because I have 2 urns in my dining room right back there, and so I need 2 topiaries to go inside. So everything that I'm doing, I'm doubling it. So that's why I'm going to be repeating the process 2 times on each step. The inspiration topiary had a whole bunch of leaves and seeds and stems along the bottom section. If you are a great freehand painter, now's your time to shine. You can paint those details on by hand. I am not, so I'm going to have my Cricut Maker cut out some similar designs. I had my Cricut Maker cut out these stems, seeds, and leaves on some white permanent vinyl. If you don't have a vinyl cutter, do not worry. There's some other ways you can get this design. You can, of course, paint it on, but you can get some stickers. I will search on Amazon and see if I can find some that are similar to the stickers that I'm using, and I'll put them in my description box. Instead of weeding away the excess vinyl and getting some transfer tape, I'm just going to use my vinyl decals as stickers. So I just peeled them away from the protective coating and then I pressed them to my foam ball. I was amazed at how well these stuck to the foam. I didn't know if they were going to or not, so happy day for me. I placed these branches and seeds in various places around the surface of the foam. Once all these stems and seeds were in place, I did the exact same thing on my second foam ball. Then I moved on to the leaves. Again, I just peeled them away from the backing like stickers and pressed them to the surface of the foam. I used about 10 leaves per foam ball. Once again, I placed them in similar areas as our inspiration piece. Once I was finished with the first foam ball, I moved on to the second foam ball. These are looking so good and very similar to our inspiration topiary. The next obstacle that I ran into was trying to find a vinyl that was in that terracotta burnt orange color. Couldn't find one, so I had to improvise. Once again, the craft section, the craft paint section at Hobby Lobby saved me, and I found this Autumn Harvest craft paint, which is the exact color I was looking for. So what I'm going to do is just paint on some circles in the middle of each one of our seeds. I'm going to get a fine point paintbrush, and I'm going to paint ovals in the center of the round seeds. This technique worked out really well. It gave me the exact color I wanted, and this was so easy. I didn't cover up all of the white because our inspiration piece did have the sides exposed. So I just simply painted over the inside portion of the seed. Once I was finished filling in each one of my white seeds in the Autumn Harvest paint, I let it dry for 1 hour. Look at how good these are looking, you guys. They look almost identical to the bottom portion of the Grandin Road topiaries. I think that we are off to a great start. The next section that we are going to replicate is what looks like a bowl to me. Doesn't that look just like a bowl? So I thought, you know what? I know the Dollar Tree has some affordable bowls, so I'm gonna head over there and see what I can find. And I found 2 bowls with some great details around it. If you look at the top of the bowl, it looks like a lid was just placed right on top of the bowl. So I thought, you know what, I'm gonna rummage around the dish aisle and see if I can find something, and I did. I found a cake pan that fit right over the top of my bowl. So I've got 2 bowls and 2 cake pans. I headed to the register, and when I was checking out, the cake pans were $1.25, but the bowls were actually $2. I'm getting kind of bummed out. At the Dollar Tree, you guys, they keep raising their prices. So just know when you go to buy these plastic bowls that they are $2 a piece. Okay, so what we're gonna do with our bowl is we need to paint it. It's gotta be white. So I'm gonna take it outside and I'm going to spray it in some white gloss Rust-Oleum spray paint. I made sure that the bowl was completely covered in the white spray paint, and then I let it dry for 1 hour. I'm going to divide up the cake pan topper into 2 sections. We've got our Autumn Harvest section first. That's the top. I'm going to paint that. I'm just going to get my sponge brush out again, and I'm going to make sure that the top, or I guess the bottom of the cake pan, is coated in this paint. And then I moved on to the sides, and I got my green paint back out, and I painted along the rim of our cake pan. I did this on both of my cake pans, and then I let the paint dry for 1 hour. There are several round dividers that go in between a lot of the sections on our topiary. What I'm gonna do is just get some rounds that I purchased at Hobby Lobby. I've got some small ones, I've got some medium ones, and we are going to paint these right now in the various colors so that when we go to assemble, they're painted and ready to go. The white rounds were painted in the white gloss Rust-Oleum spray paint. I made sure that these were completely covered in the spray paint, and then I let them dry for 1 hour, and then I hand painted the Autumn Harvest and freshly cut grass green rounds with my sponge brush. Once these had been painted, I let them dry for an hour as well. There are some sections on our topiary that curve and kind of have like a swoop. And since the bowl worked so well earlier, I thought I'm gonna look and see if they have some smaller bowls. This time I'm at Hobby Lobby, and I found some that were much smaller. They're still plastic. I'm going to paint these wider plastic bowls in the Autumn Harvest paint. You know the drill. I sponge brushed the paint on these. I made sure they were completely covered, and then I let them dry for 1 hour. I looked everywhere for a foam oval or some kind of an oval with no success. So we're just gonna throw in the towel and we're gonna go with a round foam ball instead. So right above our half foam circles are these great sized foam balls that are gonna work perfectly. This time we are going to be painting it in an antique teal color. This is gorgeous. It's like a navy blue, but it has a little more green to it. It's stunning. I am using the foam again instead of the styrofoam because we want a smooth surface. You can see the paint just glide on so smoothly. Once both of my foam balls were painted in this antique teal craft paint, I let them dry for an hour. This section on the inspiration piece had some lines that were crisscrossed all the way around the foam ball. I am not going to paint that on my hand. It would be so uneven. So I thought, you know what, maybe I could find some ribbon and that would work. So I headed over to the ribbon section at Hobby Lobby and I found the ribbon I was looking for. And this ribbon was on sale. We love a bargain. This ribbon is the perfect match color-wise and size-wise. So what I'm going to do with my ribbon is hot glue it to the foam ball. I added hot glue to the top of the foam ball, then I pressed the ribbon into the hot glue. I wrapped the ribbon around the ball once. Once I got back to the beginning, I cut the ribbon and added more hot glue so that the ribbon would stay in place. Then I just continued to repeat this process around the foam ball. I hot glued the ribbon to the ball, wrapped it around the ball. Once I got back to the beginning, I trimmed it and hot glued it in place. I ran this ribbon around the foam ball in the opposite direction, and that way I would get a diamond design. Once I was finished adding the ribbon to the first foam ball, I moved on and did the exact same thing on the second. If you notice on our inspiration piece, it had like some white outlining around the ribbon. I'm just going to use a marker and get that exact look. I actually really like the way that mine looks. It wasn't too bright of a white line. And you guys, this is actually a chalk marker. It's what I had on hand. So if you wanted to use another kind of permanent white marker, that might work as well. But if you've got chalk hanging around, just know it works. This technique worked out really well. It definitely highlights the ribbon and makes it stand out. At the top of the topiary, we have two sections that look like cups to me, or little bowls that were just put together like this. So while I was at Hobby Lobby, in the party section, I picked up another set of plastic bowls. We're going to paint these. The first section I sprayed in the white gloss Rust-Oleum spray paint. I made sure it was completely covered in the spray paint, then let it dry for an hour. And the second cup I painted in the antique teal craft paint. It glided smoothly onto the cup. Once it was 100% coated in the craft paint, I let it dry for 1 hour. We are at the very top, you guys. It's about time. I need a finial, and I have used finials before in the past. Do you remember the topiary that we duped in the springtime, the Mackenzie Childs one? At the very top, I had a gold finial, and I found this finial at Hobby Lobby. So I kept my fingers crossed that they had some. I headed down the wood aisle, and lucky for me, they had some. So I picked up 2 of these wood finials. What I'm going to do is tape off the bottom with some blue painter's tape. We're gonna paint that last. Then I got a small paintbrush and I painted the center stripe in the freshly cut green grass craft paint. I went all the way around the perimeter of the finial. Then I moved on to the top portion and painted it in the antique teal blue. I did this on both of my finials, and then I let this portion dry for about a half an hour. Then I removed the blue painter's tape and painted the bottom portion in the autumn harvest paint. I went all the way around the finial with this harvest autumn paint. I made sure it was completely covered. Once I had repeated this painting process on both of my finials, I let it dry for 1 hour. I can't remember a time where I painted so many things. So I laid everything out. Look at all of the pieces that we have. This table is chock full of topiary pieces. I'm exhausted at this point, so I left it there. I went to bed, and we're gonna start again tomorrow. A few months ago, when I did this beautiful office room renovation, I mentioned I needed some new drapes in here, and today is our day. The drapes in here were fine, and they did their duty, but they need to be retired. I definitely want an upgrade in here. I want this room to feel luxurious, and drapes can definitely make your space feel high-end. So not only are we switching out the drapes in here, but we are going to swap out the drapes in Violet's bedroom and also in a guest bedroom. So let's say goodbye to these old drapes and hello to my new Graywind smart curtains, a brand dedicated to innovative smart home solutions and elegant design. Graywind is all about making your life easier while elevating the look of your space. These drapes arrived well packaged and they had instructions that were easy to follow. Me and my trusty assistant Blake were able to hang them very easily. He is literally my right-hand man, and these drapes were hung up in a jiffy. Let's dive straight into the benefits of these drapes. They are motorized and I can control them from the Graywind app on my phone. And not only can you control it on your phone, but they also come with a remote, which lets you control up to 15 curtains individually or in groups. Do you have a specific time in the morning when you want to wake up and you have a really hard time when that alarm goes off? Well, you can set your drapes to open in the morning time at a specific time, so you have no choice but to welcome in the sunshine and get up. And you can do the same thing in the evening time. If you want your drapes to close during sunset or a specific time, you can set a timer for that. So don't worry if you're at work and you know that the drapes are open at your house, you can close them. If you're out on the town or out of town, you can close your drapes. You can even set it for a specific percentage that you want open. Let's say you only want your drapes open 30%, you can schedule that. These curtains have a rechargeable smart battery. This battery charges in 3 hours and lasts for 3 to 6 months, so you're not constantly worrying about recharging. This battery powers a quiet and efficient motor. All you gotta do is just pop it in and twist it, and now it's charged and ready to go. And you just attach it to the drapery rods. This battery powers a quiet, efficient motor, letting you control them anytime, anywhere via the Graywind app or the timing remote. These drapes are whisper quiet. The motorized track runs so smoothly and silently that you won't even notice it's working. Plus, they are fast and responsive, thanks to highly sensitive sensors that ensure quick, smooth operation every time. I chose a champagne white with 50% blackout, which softly filters light while adding an elegant, luxurious feel to my rooms. I just have to show you how beautiful these drapery panels are. They are so elegant. They're smooth, wrinkle resistant, and offer UV protection, thermal insulation, which is great for energy savings, especially if you have light coming through a room, heating up the room. This is perfect for blocking out the heat and the sun. So I've got the champagne white drapes in my office and Violet's room, but I decided to go with a pop of color in the guest room. You guys, look at this shade of blue. This is Galaxy Berry Blue, and it is just stunning. It's the same material as the champagne white drapes. This is a great way to introduce color to your space, but it's also neutral, which I really love. So it's gonna keep that room nice and dark for my guests. Plus, these are washable, so you don't need to worry if they get dirty or dusty. I selected the pinch pleat at the top. I think that looks custom and high-end, very tailored, but they have other options that you can choose. You can also completely customize the size of these drapes. You can tailor these curtains to fit any window with widths from 40 to 220 inches. You can choose from blackout, light filtering, or sheer fabrics in a variety of different colors, textures, like this chic satin series. You can also select a coordinating valance to hide the drapery rods. I opted not to get a valance because I wanted a streamlined look. These Graywind curtains have completely upgraded the luxury factor in each one of my spaces. From their sleek design to their smart app control features, Alexa integration, and whisper quiet performance, they make life more convenient and stylish. Plus, with their endless customization options, I know you'll be able to find one that fits perfectly with your design aesthetic or your specific windows in your home. I will leave a link to Graywind in my description box so you can head on over to their website, browse all the options that they have, and select some curtains that will work for you. It's assembly time, hooray! You know, I thought if I start to layer these things on top of each other, they are just going to fall over. They are not going to stay in place. So I needed to come up with some kind of a solution, and I knew that a wooden dowel poked through the center of the majority of the pieces would keep the topiary upright. So I purchased 2 wooden dowels at Hobby Lobby. Next, I need to drill some holes through the majority of my pieces. So I got my Aaliyah by Athena drill out. It's Natalie's drill. I love this drill. It's my favorite. And I drilled holes through the wood rounds, the cake pan, the foam ball, and through the plastic bowls. When you drill holes through the plastic bowls, make sure that you go really slow. We took all this time to paint them. We do not want them to crack, so go slow so it does not break. The only pieces that I am not going to be drilling holes through is the topper itself. So let's go ahead and assemble that. I'm going to get the terracotta plastic bowl first. I'm going to add hot glue to that, and then I'm going to press it to my green wood round. Next, I'm going to add hot glue to the bottom of the teal bowl and press that to the wood round. Then I added hot glue to the rim of the bowl, and then I pressed my white bowl and antique bowl together. And finally, I added hot glue to the top and pressed the finial to the top of our bowl. And now we are completely finished with our topper. They look so cute, and they're a spitting image of our inspiration piece topper. I am going to be taking my wooden dowel and I'm going to be placing it inside of my white urns. I actually already have a PVC pipe at the bottom of it, and it's surrounded by great stuff. I used these urns and that PVC pipe at Christmas time. Do you guys remember when we made those lanterns? Oh, they were so pretty. The PVC pipe held everything up. I have since cut that PVC pipe, which is so convenient because I can put that wooden dowel right in that space. So that went down first, and then I threaded the first ball through the wooden dowel, and then I just went to town putting the pieces in place. I added hot glue in between each layer just to give it a little bit of extra stability. We do not want these pieces to slide side to side, so the hot glue is key for keeping these individual rounds, bowls, and cake pans in place. Once I got to the top, I added hot glue to the final wood round and then pressed the topper in place. Phew, you guys, I'm not gonna lie, I was really nervous about this project. I didn't know if it was gonna stand upright. I didn't know if it was gonna look like we had a whole bunch of bowls placed on top of each other, but I actually really love the way that it is looking. The last little bit that we need to add is some leaves at the bottom. You can see that great stuff foam, and we don't want to. So these white leaves and gold leaves are going to cover that up and bring in a little more touch of fall. We are finished with our topiaries. Oh, look at how fabulous these look. I think my favorite part is this bottom section. I love the leaves and the branches and the seeds and the variation in color. It's such a beautiful design. I was really worried that this was gonna look like I just had a whole bunch of dishes stacked on top of each other, but it does not. It looks very professional. We took our time, we did it right. I made sure that everything was coated in the paint, which I think makes a huge difference. Take your time, do it right. It's gonna be a hassle, you guys, but I think that it's totally worth it, especially considering how much money we saved creating our 2 topiaries. If you remember, the Grandin Road topiary was $311.20, which is pretty steep. Now, brace yourself, you guys. This is the line items of everything I used. I used a lot of stuff. So after calculating all the costs that went into creating my gorgeous fall topiaries, the grand total was $89.75. And that's for 2. So if I were to purchase 2 of the Grandin Road ones, it would be $622.40. So we saved $500, over $500 creating our own. I think it was totally worth the money to create these. This was definitely one of the more challenging dupes that I've done. I'm so glad I did it though. If you want to recreate these topiaries too, I will leave a list of everything that I used in my description box. That way you don't have to try and reinvent the wheel and create it from scratch. This was a little more than I typically spend on dupe projects, but we saved ourselves so much money, and I absolutely love the way these topiaries turned out. If you like dupes like these, thrift flips, interior design ideas, Dollar Tree DIYs, and seasonal decorating, then you have found a home with me. I post new weekly videos, and I would love to have you subscribe so I can share all of these decorating ideas with you. After that doozy of a look for less, we're going to take it down a couple of notches. And our next dupe is going to be one that is much simpler. I've had my eye on this Nicole Miller runner for quite some time. I love the pumpkins on it. I love the beads around the pumpkins that highlight them. The color tone is fantastic. I thought it was so pretty, and I really want to recreate it. Now, this Nicole Miller runner is $60, which is not too bad, but it's still more than I want to pay. So what I did was I headed over to the Amazon haul website. You guys know I love that website. And I found a runner that was almost identical to our inspiration piece. I purchased mine a couple of weeks ago, and they have a whole bunch of sizes. Mine only cost $3.99, but they have sizes all the way up to a 13 by 120, and that one was the most expensive, and it was only $5.99. So they had a huge variety. If you're looking for an inexpensive runner that's beautiful for this time of year, this table runner is for you. Just like the inspiration piece, we are going to highlight all the detailing on the pumpkins, so I need some beads. While I was picking out the ribbon at Hobby Lobby in that section, I found some pearl beads there that were so pretty. And they too were 40% off, which is fantastic. So I picked up a spool of this gorgeous pearl beaded trim. The only other thing that we are going to need for this project is some fabric glue. I purchased mine online at Amazon, but you can buy this fabric glue at your craft store, probably even at Walmart. I would just keep your eyes open. We are going to use craft glue, but if you wanted to, you could sew this pearl trim on. So what I'm going to do is just run a line of this craft glue around the outlining of the pumpkin. Then I press the pearl trim into the fabric glue. All I'm doing is highlighting the ridges of these pumpkins. So I just continue to add the glue to the pumpkin detail and then pressed the pearl trim into the glue. I moved on to the second pumpkin that was connected to the first pumpkin. I repeated this process. I added the fabric glue to the ridges and then pressed the pearl trim into the glue. Once I was finished with this end, I repeated the process on the opposite end of the runner. This is such an easy and fun technique. You can do this with runners that you already have. You can definitely take a plain placemat and add some beaded trim to that. You could outline leaves, flowers, or any kind of botanical in beads like this. Once I was finished highlighting these 4 pumpkins on either side of my runner, I let the fabric glue dry overnight. And that is it. We are done. Look at how gorgeous that beading is on these pumpkins. I think it is the perfect addition to this runner. It brings in a touch of class and elegance to our runner. And it was so easy to do. This maybe took me like a half an hour to put the trim on both sides of this runner. If you're looking for an easy and affordable project, this one is for you. We took this $3.99 runner and transformed it into something that looks very high-end. And if you wanted to, you could continue to add these beads to the rest of the runner. You could go all the way down. I didn't do it because I only purchased 1 spool of the beaded trim, and so I ran out. But 1 spool gave me enough to do these 4 pumpkins. So you would probably need like 2 or 3 to do an entire runner, dependent on how long it was. Well, let's go ahead and remember our inspiration runner. This gorgeous Nicole Miller runner was $60, which is pretty expensive. After calculating all the costs that went into creating my stunner of a runner, the grand total was $9, which means that we saved over $50 recreating this runner ourselves. and it looks just as expensive or more than our $60 inspiration runner. And this runner is going to be such a beautiful addition to my table during this fall season. I am so excited about the dupes that we made today. They are timeless, they are classy. Yes, they took a lot of elbow grease, but were they worth it? Absolutely. And we were able to save ourselves so much money doing them ourselves. They were simple enough that each one of you could do, and they exceeded my expectations. You can get the look for less, which proves that you can live beautifully. You can do it throughout the year, and you can definitely do it during the changing seasons. Speaking of seasons, I have a lot more fall decorating coming up, so make sure you're subscribed so you can get all the inspiration that will help you to create a beautiful home for the fall. Well, I hope you got some inspiration or some ideas today. I appreciate you stopping by. Thank you so much for watching.